take every coffee you possibly can. I would do as much content as I can. I would probably do my own LinkedIn ads about myself, maybe some Twitter ads, because all that stuff's relatively cheap these days. I'm getting $1 million, I may as well invest, right?
Yeah, true.
Makes sense.
That's probably the first person that's actually said that.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Just get in front of as many people as you can, and it doesn't need to be in person. It can also be in the feed. You just have to show up with your expertise. I've actually received ads of people promoting themselves on LinkedIn. And I was like, wow, that's clever. If I needed you, I might actually want to do it. But yeah, that's how you get in front.
Hello and welcome to the SportsGrad podcast, the ultimate guide to make it in the sports industry. I'm your host, Nathan Peroni, and on this podcast, I chat with people in industry and find out how they got hired into dream jobs in sport. If you want to know what people are doing to break in and grow their career, make sure to follow the pod and subscribe to our newsletter for even more advice. Or if you want to give yourself a competitive advantage in the job market and put your career on a rapid new trajectory, go to our website and apply for the next cohort of the SportsGrad method program. Here at SportsGrad, we've helped people land 835 jobs in sport. A recent shout out goes to Lawrence Henderson, who has landed a job at Nike as an account executive sport specialty. Having connected with Lawrence, it's great to see he got his move into the sport industry after coming across from New Zealand, where he worked at L'Oreal as an account manager. So congrats again, mate. Now, coming up on the show today is Anthony Alsop, Senior Marketing and Communications Executive. With over 15 years in elite sport, Anthony has some incredible names on his CV, not only from time working in Australia, but also includes the NBA. Anthony's amazing stories go beyond sport too, with his time at We Are Mobilise creating moments to showcase Ned Brockman's work and helping to raise over $7 million across 2 events. Anthony is also a mentor of our SportsGrad method program and loves giving back to our SportsGrad community. So grab a pen and enjoy this chat with Anthony.
Hey guys, Ruben Williams here, founder of SportsGrad. We'll be back to the episode in just a second, but I just wanted to take a moment to tell you about the SportsGrad method program, which has been helping people land jobs at major sporting bodies in as little as 14 days and doesn't require you to take out a massive debt to get started. If you are looking to make a jump into the sports industry, but nothing seems to be working for you right now, then why not apply for the SportsGrad method program? Inside, you'll get given a proven playbook and a one-on-one industry mentor, as well as access to the SportsGrad network, plus much, much more, all of which have helped people land over 800 roles in sport. If you're ready to back yourself and fully go after your career and not let life get away from you and wonder, what if I'd only given that a shot? Then you're the kind of person who we'd love to work with. So head to sportsgrad.com.au/program and you can apply to join us.
Anthony Alsop, welcome to the SportsGrad podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Pleasure. Not your first sport business podcast.
No,
I believe you were with
business.
Sport Geek, our good friend Sean Cullinan, 2018.
Yeah,
Right?
Sean was traveling the country way back then, and I'm sure he was low on potential guests there. And he just said, "Can we have a chat at the Gabba?" When I was there in the office, and he said, "Sure, come by." So yeah, probably talk about very similar stuff that we'll speak about today, but long time ago now, so back at it again.
A few more experiences since then, I can imagine.
Correct. Yeah.
Accreditation-wise, what have you got for us today?
I wanted to bring something pretty unique and random, so I've brought Davis Cup, 2017 Davis Cup, Australia versus.
Nice.
What even was it? Australia versus the Czech Republic.
Where was this in Melbourne?
Kooyong.
Yeah.
Kooyong. So it obviously wasn't very big because it was a Kooyong. But it was one of the random ones that that came along with the job at Channel 7 because it was such a varied role.
Yeah.
I was not expecting to find that in the old Accred little stash that I've made.
I was going to say, do you have a big stash at home?
Yeah, a little bit of a stash at home. Just thought I'd bring that one in because it's pretty unique.
Yeah, I don't think many people would have. I mean, heaps of people would have AO.
Yeah,
Accreds,
exactly right.
But not a Davis Cup one.
Not Davis Cup or the Czech Republic. So,
no,
there you go.
That'll go nicely on the wall in the house. As you will know, I know you're a listener and key part in the SportsGrad program, but we start the podcast with quick fire questions to get to know you a little bit better. Firstly, what inspired you to work in sport?
It's just what I love to do. I loved watching it, loved playing it. On the weekends in high school, I was doing basketball Saturday, tennis Sunday morning, footy in the afternoon on a Sunday. It took over a lot of my life. And then when you want to go out in the real world, why not do the thing that you enjoy?
Yeah.
Pretty simple. And I think the thing that actually got me my first real role in that was I was living in America when I was 19 and I was watching the Australian Open on TV in America. And I was like, why don't I work there? And I just went back and worked there the next year. So that's how it all happened.
What were you doing? How long were you living in America for?
Only for 6 months. End of first year of uni, me and a mate, we went to live in LA and we worked at Universal Studios.
Cool.
So I was working at Starbucks serving coffee. And we chose LA because it had 2 NBA teams and we're big basketball fans. So we wanted to go and watch NBA games. So yeah, it was just a bit of a circuit breaker after the first year of uni. And yeah, it was, we were just watching ESPN over there and the tennis was on. And I think like me or my sister had tried to become a ball kid when we were, 13, 14, but that's a very hard gig. I'm sure it's harder to get now. And I was just watching and I'm like, why don't I get more involved with this? I'm appreciating this on the side of the world. And went back the next year and got a gig. So I was happy with that.
Did you serve any coffees to famous people?
Yeah, one of those actors would come through and be like, I know you, those bit players. I remember a couple of times I'm like, I know you from somewhere. But yeah, it was first day I worked there. The boss came over and said, do you want to go to a movie tonight? And I was like, yeah, sure. And he goes, great, here are tickets. And we turn up. It's the world premiere of Meet the Fockers. And we got to walk the red carpet, Ben Stiller, Bette Midler, see everybody. So I was like, welcome to LA. Seriously, day one, welcome to LA.
So you might have had a career in entertainment, I reckon.
Maybe.
Getting exposure to that so early.
Is there an entertainment grad we can work on? Showbiz grad?
Rubes probably wants it down the line, I'm sure.
Seriously, expansion.
What was your first ever job and what was your first ever sport-related job?
First ever job, Coles checkout chick. Like the day I turned 15, got that.
Yeah.
The neighbour she worked at Coles and she just said, do you want a job? And that was the extent of the interview. So pretty easy.
That's nice.
Got that. So I did that for a while. So I moved to America. I did that for like 4 or 5 years during high school. And then the first like paid gig was the Australian Open. I was a statistician. And so, whenever you watch broadcast or on the app now, when the score comes through, there's someone sitting on the sideline determining if it was an unforced error or forced error or whatever. And that was us, team of about 20-ish people, 25 people do that. And it was a super cool gig, $20 an hour to sit courtside watching the world's best tennis players. Very cool. So.
Is that 20 to 25 across the whole Melbourne Park?
Yeah. So it was basically like maybe
there's a lot of games going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of games. So in the lesser courts that have one person, but on the big courts you might have 3.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you got a night shift and a morning shift and all that kind of stuff. So probably more actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, we used to sit courtside and do all this great stuff. And now AO, it's so big that they now give those seats away to very high-paying customers.
Yeah.
So it's a lot smarter. But it was an awesome gig for.
You did that for a while, I think. 8 years?
Yeah, I did that. Yeah, on and off for about 8 years. And there's still people who do it now. They go back and, on their holidays. And it's wild the amount of people that go back for 10, 20 years, whatever, doing it. But yeah, super cool gig.
Is that niche to break in? Like, obviously, you spoke about ball kids and court services. I've never heard of applying for a statistician role.
Yeah, well, I hadn't either until I did it. And I was like, what could I actually do here? And it's like, really the qualifications were, do you know the rules? And I'm like, I played tennis all my junior career. So yeah. And the final interview was like, is this a forced error or an unforced error? And that was basically it. So got to work that out and you're okay.
You got so much. You wouldn't have had all the technology now back then either.
I think it's still the same actually.
Like the ball line technology, I'm saying that probably makes it easier as well.
Yeah. I think it's still the same. They literally just put mouse up and down into a thing and it's unforced force and move it across.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, it's a little bit different when you're doing Roger Federer there in front of you. But apart from that, unforced or forced.
Very cool experience.
That's all you got to know.
After high school, extra study, did you complete any?
No, I think I tried to do that. The extra study for me was the actual work experience. So the tennis stuff and then being a basketball fan, wanted to get involved with basketball in some capacity and just hit up the Melbourne Tigers back in the day. And any small struggling sporting club, if you call up and say, can I help out? 9 times out of 10, the answer will be yes. And so, the opportunity they had available was court sweeper. And again, I think I was 19 or 20. I remember being 10-year-old looking at that job thing. I'd love to do it. And maybe I was out of my prime for court sweeping, but I'm like, sure, whatever, that sounds cool. I had a few good years there with a good mate of mine. Tigers won 2 championships out of 3 while I was there. Got to go to Sydney for a win a couple. So it delivered a lot of cool moments.
Were they still Tigers by the time you left, or was it?
Still the Melbourne Tigers. Then we're playing out at the Cage at the State Netball and Hockey Centre, and the first year I was there, we'd struggled to fill the 3.5 seat stadium, So it's come a long way since then, and it's awesome to see the way that United and Phoenix are doing now. But yeah, some dark days of basketball then. Hence the jobs were available. I'm sure it's harder to get a court sweeping opportunity now. But yeah, really cool experience. And, again, got to get to the games, got to engage with the players, understand the sports industry from the first really element of it or aspect of it in my career. So it was a very cool opportunity.
Yeah, amazing. One interview question you were asked to answer for any jobs you've been in that you love or look back on, or what's the question you like to ask people that you hire?
I think the thing about that is really what are you passionate about doing? And I think about that because when I got in the industry, or try to get in the industry, my big problem was what I want to do. I couldn't decide. I didn't know what area I wanted to go. I just knew I wanted to be in sport. And at that stage, when you're thinking about that, you're like, why would they turn me down? I'll do anything. I'm so helpful for them. But when you're on the other side and you're on the hiring side, it's just well, I actually need you to be great at this one thing and pretty good at this second thing, most likely.
Yeah.
So the thing I would ask when I got the other side of the hiring desk, it was well, what are you really passionate about? And if they were applying for a job and it was I'm only here because of the logo behind us, you'd often learn that they may not last very long, or they might not have a great career, or honestly turn up to work and enjoy it. Mm-hmm. But if someone could come along and say, I'm really passionate about X and it just happens to be this environment, that's when you often know that person will turn up every day, loving their job, giving you what you want, putting in the extra hours, and they'll often last for a long time. Because the reality is with sport, as you well know, and I'm sure this audience knows, somebody will put their hand up to replace you very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So you do want people who will stay in for the long haul because, honestly, when you go back to that hiring process and you put a job up in sport, you might get 400, 500, 600 applications, whatever, and it's nuts. And going through then, just hire the best person the first time. Makes life a lot easier.
Yeah. We sort of spoke about this too before we jumped on air, but do you think it's better to be more well-rounded or an expert in field? And you can come at this from marketing comms background as well.
Oh, that's the thing. So I'd probably say if you're looking at that comms and content space today, you need to be an all-rounder.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is budgets, first of all. This is not, 20 years ago. Everyone has a linear budget to run a content team. And also a lot of the skills are quite transferable. So if you want to be creating content, you often have to know how to be able to write a script and how to make a thumbnail and how to do graphics and that kind of thing. So if you're on that hiring side and you go, well, if I can get someone who can do 4 things at once, all pretty well, I can get one person who can do one thing really well. I'd probably go for the 4 things, if that works out. So that's on the content and more the marketing side. But, if you're in sponsorship and sales and all that kind of stuff, that's a very skilled area. You have to know what you're doing. You have to be able to know how to write contracts and negotiate and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you probably want to be pretty an expert in that, and accounting and other important things. Yeah.
Sound advice. Yeah. Book or podcast recommendation that's helped your career so far?
The book for me, I really like reading The Third Door, it's called. So the concept is about this guy just tries to hunt down the world's most successful people and ask them what made you successful, and kind of what he learns along the way. Are we going to spoil this? No. What he learns along the way is that it really was that people just built their own pathway. So the concept of the third door is everybody knows the front door, everybody knows the back door, but where's that side door or something else that you can create for yourself to get you into your passion or your dream or whatever.
Okay.
And so from my recollection, he tries to hunt down Bill Gates and Richard Branson and all these kind of dudes. He doesn't get to speak to everybody, but he learns from people in their world that it's this guy just followed his passion, or this guy just never took no for an answer, or whatever it is. And that's kind of that concept of the third door. Go and create your own opportunity, because more often than not, people won't create it for you.
Love it. That's a good statement to clip that up later on. And lastly,
in sound bites, man.
Yeah, I know. Jules will be good at that behind the scenes. And last one on the quick fires. If you could try another job in sport for a day, what would it be?
I think CEO. Let's just do CEO. Why not? I've been reporting to CEOs for a little while, and all the strategy stuff, long-term planning, the big thing about a new facility or a new sponsor or the jumper changing, it looks all that kind of stuff. But that's what those guys, maybe not the jumper changing, but those big picture
They'll get
stuff.
involved.
Yeah, they'll get involved. The big picture stuff that interests me now, that's the stuff they're dealing with every day. So yeah, why not?
Like it. Maybe down the track. Now, before we jump in and sort of dive into your career, your journey, I just want to speak about an impressive CV that a lot of people would be fond of, I would say. So we're talking Melbourne Tigers, Australian Open, Richmond Footy Club, NBA, Seven Sport, covering Olympics, AFL, tennis, Spring Race Carnival, Brisbane Lions, Melbourne Rebels, and basketball.com.au. Do you ever look back and go, wow, I've been to a lot of cool organisations?
Yeah, I've been to a lot of cool organisations. Yeah, it's a weird and windy road. But yeah, amazing opportunities. And you look like just listing those off, like there's just a lot of cool memories too. Like,
Yeah.
I think, if you're lucky enough to work in sport, you just get left with amazing memories. And, your friends in accounting or lawyering, whatever, might, have a better house or whatever than you, a better apartment. But, you're left with memories that you'll never forget. And so, yeah, there's some very cool moments that, when you reel them off that I think about. And, yeah, I've been very fortunate to work in those opportunities as well.
Yeah. So before we jump into Richmond, which was like the first full-time gig in sport, I just want to speak about, so you founded SportSpiel and Jak Events.
Yep.
Now, when I was looking through your LinkedIn profile, I was like, okay, these sound kind of curious. So SportSpiel was a social media consultancy business, and you launched campaigns for the Bombers, Gold Coast, and Adam Scott, just to name a few. And then Jak Events was a free networking event for sport industry folk for digital media. So you're basically doing SportsGrad was 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to just speak about what those experiences meant to you and how they all came about?
Yeah, so I spoke about before about not knowing what I wanted to do in sport. I ended up going to a SMANZ, SMAANZ Sports Marketing Conference.
Oh, I have heard of that.
Yeah.
Yes,
And because I was just trying to learn more, meet people, learn more about it. I was really trying to crack the industry at that time. And I'd been unsuccessful for jobs in membership roles and all these lower level job or entry level roles that I was like, I know I can do, but I'm not getting them. So, what am I doing wrong? And I've got this bit of experience with tennis and a bit of experience with the Melbourne Tigers, but it's clearly not enough.
Yeah.
So I went to this conference to learn more about just what people were in the industry were doing. And it sounds so archaic now, but someone did a session on Shaq and how he used Twitter. And I was just like, well, I'm really passionate about sport and I really like technology on the side. But I just never thought about combining them. Again, this was a very long time ago. And I was like, you know what? That's it. Just sitting in this session for 30 minutes, it all just clicked to me. And I'm like, this is what I want to do in sport. This is it.
Yeah.
And so I took some advice from my sister who was like, okay, that's great. You want to do this? Well, how are you going to get noticed? I'm like, I don't know. And she goes, we'll start a blog. And so SportSpiel was that blog. And I literally would just blog about what I saw and found interesting in that space. And so the big post for me, and Bill Simmons and everybody's quantified it now, but I ranked the AFL teams by their Twitter use as one of my blog posts.
Okay, yeah.
And that got me noticed, really simply.
And this is at a time when Instagram wasn't really getting used.
It didn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Facebook, were they using that in
Facebook
sport?
just started from a pages perspective.
So Twitter was the main social platform.
Yeah, this was 2009, 2010. So a very long time ago now. But teams didn't have dedicated digital managers yet. And I think one of the teams I ranked in didn't even have a Twitter account or something. So it was very simply which teams are really engaged in this digital first, speaking to their fans. And I even had a column do they post after 5 p.m? Do they care about this after hours type thing? I just remember thinking well, they're the people who care, they go the extra mile.
Yeah.
And I think the top 3 teams who I ranked as the top 3 all reached out, and Essendon were one of them. And I ended up doing an internship from that. And off the back of that, it just led to some consultancy work with a few others, Australian Cricket Association, Jeff White, the Melbourne Ruckman, who's now doing some really great content. He was starting his own digital work. So I ended up doing some work with him where we worked with Adam Scott and a few other people. That was my real foray into the industry for the first time from a professional perspective.
Yeah.
And then while that was all happening, a friend of mine he was running his own SEO agency, and we were chatting about it. And he's like, I go to these conferences all the time. Do you know, is there a conference for what you do? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so. So I did a quick little Google, couldn't find one. And we're like, let's start one.
Yep.
And then, of course, the day we went live, we found the rival conference after. So we did a paid one. We did a paid one as well as some free stuff. And hosted the MCG. And we wanted it for people who were like us, the doers. We didn't want CEOs to come along. We wanted the doers to come along. So we made it a pretty cheap an event with 150 people at the MCG, sold it out. I think our big headliner was from the Phoenix Suns. We flew someone out from Phoenix Suns.
That's impressive.
Yeah, we're happy with that. And then we got, just some people from Cricket Victoria and Perth Wildcats and a few others to come along. That was like, put your big boy pants on and try and be part of the industry, right?
Yeah.
And so we all like faked it and maked it and put a conference on and people really liked it. So went back again, did the next year, same thing. And then I had a job by then at Richmond Footy Club, and it was hard. It was hard to run both things and still get sleep. So
That's fair. But you got out of it what you needed to.
100%
for those years.
Yeah. And then great networking, great learning about the industry, great putting the events on. Had some great speakers at those free events. But it really was about how do we bring people together in this new and emerging industry, because some people were really passionate about it, but there wasn't like LinkedIn wasn't a thing, and you all kind of operated in silos back then. So this was like an opportunity to bring everybody together.
Love it. Very nice. You just spoke about it. So Richmond's the next cut off the rank. So digital marketing manager at the Tigers. How does that role all come about in the first place?
Yeah, well, back to that internship at Essendon. So I've been there for a couple of months, and I think I was just known as like the annoying kid who knew what to do on the computer in that team. And Richmond had just poached. So Brendan Gale had kind of recently taken over, and he poached one of the key staff members there, Simon. Simon spoke to my report at Essendon, John O'Simpson, who I'm sure probably not a few people in the SportsGrad community may know, and just said, "Who's that kid? What's he doing? Can we have a chat?" And it just started from there. So digital marketing roles weren't very prevalent at the time. Like I think only a couple other clubs had them.
Yeah.
And Richmond were really building that up. So jumped at the opportunity, and it was amazing, and had such a good time there for 5 years. And this is the early days of digital in the AFL, we made a lot of progress, built a great audience, rode the ups and the downs, and were able to do some very cool things there, and it was just one of those jobs that I loved. So for the first real crack at in the industry, I was very fortunate.
Was there many shackles that they were like, you can't do this? They were really like open to any ideas? Nah,
Brendan Gale there as a CEO and a leader, and Simon, they were very much like, you know what you're doing, you go and do it.
Yeah.
So very supportive of that. And Simon as a boss, very creative, always had a bunch of ideas. Like we launched these games and all these other things that we purpose built ourselves. Really pushed the boundaries with the AFL. The people who were saying no was the AFL and Telstra. But at Clubland, very supportive. We work with those guys to get some stuff out the door that we're really proud of. And we just did a whole bunch of cool things, and like, honestly, nearly all the way down, the footy club was really supportive of like just trying to get us out there as a club at the time. That wasn't doing too well in the field, but like you could also like use digital and social as a way to really be like, hey, we're more than just a footy team on this 2 hours on the weekend. We're doing great community stuff on a Wednesday. Yeah. We're supporting families on a Thursday. And that was a really cool thing about Richmond, is that they had the Corin Gamaji Institute and Alana Madeline Foundation relationships, like much more than a footy club, supporting a lot more people than just the players and the fans. So like it was a really great place to be.
Yeah. Still anyone there at the Tigers that you worked with?
I think there's plenty of people there still. Like, my boss is still there. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Yeah. Great crew down there.
I wanted to mention too, so you were the winner of the 2013 AFL Club Peer Award, and you're the runner-up in 2014.
You can tell I put that at the time. I wanted to make myself feel important on my LinkedIn.
Honestly, I saw it. I'm like, that sounds interesting. Anyway, so you're runner-up in 2014 for the same award, and then you also won the AFL Club Digital Innovation and Strategy Award in 2013, I think, as well.
Yeah, I can't remember what that was for.
Can you explain what that sounds like to me? You're like the best-ranked administrator in the AFL.
Yeah, so like I spoke about before, we had the connection with the Phoenix Suns. So I'd gone over to America and met with them, and he had in his office, the guy who came out, his name Jeremy, in his office he was like best team, like digital team. And I was like, what's that? And he's like, oh, this is awards we hand out at the NBA, like there are marketing awards, all that kind of thing. I'm like, oh, that's cool. There's 30 teams there. It's a bit more competitive. And I think maybe like a year or so later, I was just saying to some people at the AFL, like we should like incentivize the teams here for doing what we do. And I think 2012 was the first year I think we did it. There was like, I think there was a bunch of club people got to vote and people at AFL HQ got to vote. It was just like, we all work really hard and this stuff all goes off into the ether. Why don't we get together at the end of the year like we do anyway, and actually just like say well done to one another and celebrate the work.
Yeah.
Bit of competition between each other, and that's all good for that. But I was a big believer too, like we're never going to steal like St Kilda fans or North Melbourne fans or vice versa in that space in like digital. So I'm like, why don't we just help each other out? Like we're all using the same technologies. Like let's try and get the most out of we can, better experience for the fans. So that was my approach. I'm sure other people had different approaches. But yeah, that award stuff was just a way of saying like, hey, we've all worked really hard. You know, when you're in that digital team, you're often staying back till 1 o'clock after games, doing all the hard work. Like this is just a little way of saying, well done.
Yeah. So would you say that you were ranked like the best administrator in the AFL? Is that what it means?
In this very little niche, maybe, yeah, by my peers. Yeah.
And then the club ranked as the best digital innovation strategy.
Yeah, I think there were like a whole bunch of awards in the end. So that was one of them. But yes, I think, we were doing good stuff. And like Richmond, very passionate fan base, very lucky to have access to that in that role as well. But yeah, as I said, like we tried to push the boundaries in what we were doing. We would be annoying to people in power as a result of that. But yeah, we did some cool things, I thought.
Like it.
Yeah.
Now you spoke about the Phoenix Suns. You worked over in the States. Now you go to the NBA and you're digital product manager for international. Does this role come about through those Phoenix Suns connections, or
I just applied online.
Wow.
Yeah. Richmond in 2014, we lost to Port Adelaide in the elimination final, and all of a sudden I had all this leave to take, and I hadn't planned for taking that leave because we'd won 9 games in a row, and it all came a bit unexpected. I was just trying to fill some time, to be honest, and I was like, I wonder what jobs are available, because I never thought I'd leave Richmond. I really enjoyed it. And I applied for one job, and it was the NBA one. And I was like, well, that's pretty audacious, and never thought I'd get it.
Did you ever want to go work in
I think
North America? I know you'd been in when you were 19, but...
Yeah, I think maybe one day, sure. But I never thought it to be realistic. And I just saw this role, and it was purely for the international products. I say that because if you're in America, you had one suite of products like the app and website and things. But if you're international, every other country in the world got the same thing.
Yep.
And I was using the app on the Xbox and the website and stuff as an NBA fan, so I knew it all really well. And I'm like, well, I can just step in and do this job pretty quickly. And I think that's why I got the job. Like that, they didn't have to train me in the layouts and the user experience and all that kind of stuff. So I think it was like 5 months from applying to starting.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a serious process.
Yeah, it was a serious process, and they didn't care that I was on the other side of the world. So I had to do interviews like 2 o'clock in the morning and all this kind of thing. And so really interesting process. It dragged out a bit because you have to worry about visas and all that stuff at that stage. Yeah.
What were the kind of tasks or interviews? What were you doing to get the job?
It was just 3 phoner interviews, and in the last one, he threw these 5 NBA questions at me. He's like, name 3 of the teams Shaq played for, and I was like, I know all this, but I'm just freezing in the moment. He goes, if I have 30 in one category, what is it most likely going to be? I'm like, points. So I think those were pretty basic questions, but they just wanted to know I wasn't I actually knew my way around a basketball court.
Yeah. And does this land you in New York? Is that where you worked?
Well, the job ad said New York. It was actually New Jersey, which is a bit disappointing. But
that sounds like the FIFA World Cup. Yeah, it's in New York, but it's actually in New Jersey.
It's literally right there, where that stadium is, was where the NBA office is. So the NBA has an office in Midtown in New York.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's where Adam Silver is and all that kind of thing. And there's a very a smaller amount of team is there. Like the corporate guys are there, and a very select amount of the digital team is there. But the vast majority of the staff, they're out in New Jersey in this business park. And they've done a great job of improving it now from what I hear. But yeah, back then it was pretty much as a business park, and I had to get the 45-minute bus out there, which I didn't plan on doing, but that's life.
Was there many other Aussies at the time?
I came across 2 other Aussies while I was there. One was in our broader team, and she was based in the city, and the other guy was in a sponsorship type role, and he was also in the city. So I was the only Aussie out in the sticks.
In the sticks.
Yeah. No offense to New Jersey.
You mentioned obviously you're managing NBA app, League Pass. What did the role look like when you're in it?
Yeah, so there were 14 different versions of the NBA app and League Pass. So there's 2 Xbox, 2 PlayStation, 2 Android, 2 iOS, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
So you're just basically just trying to keep them all up, and then we launched a Roku, Telstra TV app as well. So there's a team of us, but the day-to-day bug issues and all that kind of stuff it was down to me. So yeah, it was about a bunch of things about if bugs were being assessed or things went down during games, we had to make sure we got it back up. And that would be, during games at nighttime, things like that. But during the day, we're also working on marketing for the app. So we'd speak to Canal Plus in France and, Tab in Australia and all that kind of thing to make sure we could grow the usage of the app.
Yeah.
And then also how do we get the most out of the app as a result? So you're also doing some UX. So it's we started doing in-language translations of notifications for German. So if Dirk Nowitzki had 41 points, we'd send out a push notification in German and all those kind of things. We'd send out all of our email marketing had to be translated 10 times into 10 different languages, all that kind of thing. So like all the stuff that just kept the big machine going.
Yeah.
That was kind of the role that I
Was most of the
after.
stakeholders you're working with actually international? Not so much.
No,
in
so the
America?
team that developed the international app, they were in Long Island in New York, so an external development company. But most of my team were in the office. But then of course, like we had people based in Brazil, we had people based in London. So always just checking in with those guys at the same time.
Yeah. What do you think are the biggest differences you saw from like a year in the NBA versus Australia? And that can just be sport in general or basketball. I think you always hear the stereotype we're 5 years, 10 years behind America.
Yeah, probably a little bit less. Definitely like a little bit less in terms of time frame. I think definitely at the time, like the sports entertainment aspect of the game was definitely ahead. And the technology stuff was way ahead, like the whole personalization and one user experience, like one kind of like customer view type thing was definitely ahead. But yeah, I think the biggest thing I saw was just the money involved. Like the money was just ridiculous. Like, you know, when you're at that NBA level, the sponsorship deals are crazy. The professionalism is nuts. Like I was very fortunate to be able to go to some major events like the NBA finals and All-Star weekend, all those kind of things. And yeah, like just the way you were taken care of as a staff member was just off the charts. Like, you know, you'd stay at the Four Seasons and you'd have the full thing taken care of you, and there'd be a sign every 10 meters about NBA staff this way so you didn't get lost and all that kind of stuff. Absolutely incredible, yeah. So definitely like just what's involved at that scale is huge.
Yeah. And did you connect much with those other leagues, like the NFLs?
I didn't too
NHLs?
much, no. Like we were more so like kind of observing what they were doing, and like seeing, can we like pinch anything of what they were doing?
Yeah.
But no, like in my role in particular, like because I was so much more focused on the international stuff, I don't think those other leagues were worried about international as much back then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they are now. But no, I was purely focused on the NBA, on the basketball.
Now, did you want to leave so quickly, or
Yeah, I mean, I look back at it now, and at the moment, you had that feeling of like, well, people are going to ask me that exact question, like, what went wrong? Like, what?
like it was a year and a half? I think
Yeah,
it
a
was
year
back
and a
then?
half. Yeah, like what went wrong or what failed. But it was just a bit of a culture thing for me. Like, the differences were also very much culture based. Like, in the NBA over there, similarly, like here, like it's very hard to get in the job, and I just found that like it became this element for me of like the culture clash was a bit too high. So like coming from Richmond, we were very flat structure, very team oriented, like really working for one another. And the NBA culture was not that. And it just got to the stage where it just wasn't for me in the end. And I look back and I said, well, I've done 18 months. I've got to go all the events, made some amazing experiences. You know, maybe I start looking for something back home.
Yeah.
And I saw a job that I really was interested in and decided to make the move. But yeah, so like at the time you do kind of feel like a little bit of a failure or whatever. Like you go to the other side of the world and you don't make it or that kind of thing. But like I did really honestly believe that like, you know, I have to really want to love to come to work and really want to be fully invested. And that's still me today. Yeah, so I don't look back on the decision today saying I failed or anything. I look back going, wow, what an opportunity, and got to experience everything I wanted to experience from that moment.
No, I don't think any negatives. A lot of people, I think, want to go move to London and do 2 years or something. It's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned, you come back home, head of Digital 7 Sport. Are you interviewing from the States, or already come back home?
No, I didn't. I had to duck out of a private office at the NBA and do that. So I went through that process. So I was very fortunate to be able to land back in the country and start that job. And again, that was an organization looking to really up their game in this space, like coming from a traditional like TV broadcast environment where everything was just TV. Like they were smart enough to realize that was changing. Got into a office in Melbourne that was just like some of the smartest sport people you have, like all the producers and broadcasters and operators. Like they've all been doing it for a very long time. They know exactly what they're doing. And really from a digital perspective, it was like, how can I come in and complement that? Like, how can we extend what we already have? And that was the big thing for the digital platform at that stage. It was really just like, we have this great broadcast rights, but everything just kind of just sits on broadcast. Like we just launched like the 7 Tennis app and the Olympics were coming up. So we started moving that digital space as well, and it's a subscription model. But like I looked at the footy slate and I was like, oh my God, we have footy coming out the wazoo, but we just had this really convoluted social strategy. So I kind of like merged everything into like 7 AFL on social that it is today. And we went off to the races from there, and like horse racing existed and a few other things, but like we really just like built out a digital strategy and then worked. At the end of my time there was about how do we incorporate 7+ into it. And yeah, just being around all these guys, being able to get to the 2016 grand final and work on the Olympics and Melbourne Cup and incredible events that Channel 7 has. Again, very fortunate to be across all those.
Yeah. What do you think were some of the key differences from like a broadcast digital objectives versus you've been in club and a league environment before that and since this job?
Yeah, well, when you're at a club, you are the broadcaster, like for yourself. You have to come up with everything yourself, right? So it's very much like, what piece of content can I do? What behind-the-scenes documentary can I do? All that kind of thing. But at Channel 7, there was just so much stuff that got left on the cutting room floor because there's only such a finite amount of time, on broadcast. But on digital, you can do whatever you want. So at those club filming days when they come in pre-season from an AFL perspective, and you just have access to 10, 20 players, and most of the time they're just sitting around doing nothing, like waiting for their time to get on camera. So we would just go and film some stuff with them, and it all sounds rudimentary now, or like tack on some questions at the end of the actual broadcast filming, and then use that for social, roll it out around theme rounds or plan it ahead and schedule ahead. Or then use it into 7+, and the companion shows and like the second screen viewing that 7+ became. That was like the inclination of all that. All started with this experience of like, all right, we've got the 7 Tennis app, we've got the 7 Olympics app. How can we just go more in that digital space?
Yeah. Were there any situations where like a broadcast deal was up for negotiation, you thought you might lose it, or you're about to get something and it meant or you had to start planning for this is now gone, or we're about to get this massive deal?
When it came to broadcast rights, I was definitely at the end of that agreement, so I would find out at the very end, not the front of it.
But I feel like in that situation, I would like to think you guys are across somewhat of those negotiations, at least plan. Right?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like they would bring us in and be like, "What are your hopes for here? Like, what do you want to do? What can you get access to?" And especially like when you deal with governing bodies like IOC, everything is very legal.
Yeah.
And so like there are limits around for Facebook, for example, like we couldn't post like a same bolt. Globally, we had to be very geotagged and things like that. So like those were limitations that you worked around. But yeah, like 7 Olympics, the Rio Olympics 2016, like the whole team was based in Sydney. We probably had about 40-ish staff and just 20 people per 12-hour shift and all that kind of thing. And just this content team running 24/7 for 3 weeks. And, we broke the Telstra data record when the Boomers were playing the Dream Team. And all this kind of thing. So like an amazing moment. We followed all the rules and to the degree with that stuff. And we had Facebook, Australia's highest ever post, and it was Usain Bolt winning his 3rd gold medal in a row. I think it had something crazy like 11 million views. And I think at that stage there was only like 12 million Australians on Facebook. So, we had this great penetration of content and stuff. So again, at that scale and those kind of rights and things that you have to do, like amazing career opportunities.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You love winning awards. There's another couple here.
Again, I'm not sure I can do much of that, but it looks great on LinkedIn.
So winner of the Australian Sports Commission's best digital coverage of a sports event in 2016 and 17. I imagine 16 was the Olympics.
I think so.
17, AFL, horse racing or something?
Might
like
have been AFL or tennis.
How does that all get awarded?
Australian Sports Commission Awards happen. I think they only happened a couple of weeks ago now. But yeah, like in my role, I don't get invited. Like the bosses get invited, and you just hear about it the next day. Like, oh great, it's cool. We won the award.
Yeah. You still played a part.
Yeah,
you're a team. Yeah. Can't deny that. So post 7 Sport off to Brisbane Lions, another bit of travel.
Yeah,
you are from Melbourne originally too, right?
Yep.
So you're bouncing around.
Yep.
Does this role come about through AFL connections?
Again, I just applied online. It was an opportunity that I looked
There's
at.
a lot of people that wouldn't keep applying and get all these jobs. Like, I feel like even for me personally, every job I've got since I was at Macca's has been knowing someone.
Yeah, well, if you didn't know them, you just have a crack, right?
Yeah.
And I think at that stage, I'd only applied for 4 jobs, and I think I was 4 for 4, so I was going all right. But that opportunity was just like, I just knew that at that stage, like footy was my favorite job, and the Brisbane Lions opportunity came up, and it was about a bit more about career growth and like what I wanted to do. Like being in that 7 environment for 18 months, I was like, wow, I'm really now enjoying the media side and the strategy around broadcast. Because you'd be working with these producers and you'd sit and hear like the strategy around the planning of the broadcast and everything you're trying to achieve. And it was just that next level above what someone in a digital team could deliver. And when I was at Richmond, we worked in the media team, so I worked alongside the media guys. So you'd have a bit of exposure to that, but obviously I had my own job to do and all that kind of thing. But I think it's just like as your career evolves, your passions and what you want to do in your career can change too. And having that exposure to Channel 7 really made me want to get that media strategy side. And yeah, Brisbane was last on the ladder. We lost 10 out of our first 11 games when I was up there. So there wasn't also a lot of demand for the role, I assume. And maybe I got lucky in that sense. But yeah.
So did you join halfway through the year?
Yeah, I think I joined like round 8 or 9.
Okay.
And so yeah, it's
and this was GM of communications, I should have mentioned as well.
Yeah. So I had a look at the media, marketing, digital design team up there. And yeah, it was tough going, right? Like Brisbane, the city had turned off AFL, team wasn't doing well. But it was just like, again, I'd been to Richmond, very similar situation. I joined after a 1-10 start, so I almost repeated that. And you could see the building blocks were there. There were some young players there. And, you know, no idea what was going to happened in terms of winning all these flags, but you could see like the building blocks and the road back was starting to begin. They put some really talented people there in terms of like a CEO and Chris Fagan and David Noble, like the great opportunities in the building blocks. And they had a number 1 pick. So there was plenty of upside and yeah, great opportunity to get back into footy, great opportunity to get to a senior role, do some media work. And when you weren't winning, like you were kind of more so asked to do your own media. And I think my digital background like led to that. So, you know, we like lent into things we could control, like brought our podcast back, did a lot more interviews that we could. And also like being a Melbourne person myself, like I really try to lean into the Melbourne audience as well. So I try to get us onto SEN and Herald Sun regularly and do all these kind of things to get us noticed down here, even if we weren't playing too well.
You mentioned the Melbourne connection. So you created and produced the feature-length doco, The Merge as well, which aired on Fox Footy, which is basically talking about Fitzroy and the Bears and the Lions. Was that something that was like a passion project of yours that you thought because the club isn't going so well on the field, let's talk about something else?
Yeah, so I think like when I got up there, like you look around from a narrative point of view and go, what can we tell? Well, the team's not winning very well. You know, some great local Queensland stories, but that's not a national audience. So the one story the Brisbane Lions has is that the only team that's ever merged. It's the unique thing they have about them. And so I did some research and I really couldn't find anything that had gone into detail about it in a narrative form, anything longer than like maybe a 20-minute piece of content on YouTube somewhere. Again, 30 for 30 wasn't around just yet, and the Fox Sports documentary world hadn't taken over. So I was like, well, let's just do it ourselves. And then we had a bit of like free time as a team at the end of 2018. And you know, end of season is when you can start to do your planning. And I'd spoken to the footy guys and they told us like we were likely getting Lachie Neale and Luke Hodge was there, and we thought we were going to do some other signings and have a better year in 2019. So I went down to the Fox Footy in that off season and I just chatted to the team there and I was like, look, if we go and make this doco, I think we're going to do better next year. I think we're going to be relevant in the media landscape.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully we're going to make the finals and that'll be a great story. Like if we make this doco, will you run it? And they said, yep. And they were very supportive. They got access to us, their studio, their talent. And so, yeah, I just got to it on like a script. Like, what does the history look like? You know, what can we actually tell with stories and with video and imagery? So yeah, like I started hunting down old news footage from Channel 9 and Channel 10 and 7 of the day when the merge happened. We spoke to Kevin Murray, a club legend, and we just really tried to tell the story of like the Fitzroy early days and what happened there, and then get into the Brisbane Bears stories because that's often overlooked. And yeah, like it's again like this digital content background. Like I knew I could tell a story. We just needed to get the team involved, and we did this all while having our first finals season in like 12 years, whatever it was. So we were super busy, and we're able to deliver that. Fox are really happy with it, and yeah, it's still on. I think it's still on KO. It's definitely on YouTube.
Yeah, amazing.
And yeah, it's it's. I'm really.
Did you narrate it?
We didn't have a narrator actually. No, we helped set it out with the layout and everything. But no, I'm really proud of that. And yeah, I think it's been a bit more relevant since the club has won some flags. And people have found it again on YouTube and things like that. But yeah, that's a piece of work you can look back on your career and be like, yeah, really proud of how that came up. And hopefully it informed for some people. You know, when the merge happened, I think I was 9 or 10. So I learned some new stuff again about it. And the funniest thing about that was that we were going through the footage from like Channel 9 and we found this kid who was 7 or 8, went crying, Fitzroy fan, when it happened. And I was like, I wonder if he's still a member. So I just went out on the membership database, looked him up, and he was, like, you know, whatever it was, 22 years later. So we went down to, we got him to a game. We actually interviewed him and showed him the footage and everything. And he's like, wow, this is embarrassing. But he did a great chat with us. And I think that got him the final cut. But yeah. That's
I saw they did that with Roger Federer. Was it Federer, I think, recently at the tennis? They got some ball kid that
they
interacted with and
yeah.
they brought him back.
Yeah. But again, that's just it's a power sport, right? It's a power
Yeah.
of footy and the narrative and everything. And this club had been terrible. It's moved into state, done all this stuff during these years. They won a few flags, yes. But he still supported this team 22 years later and had all the gear and everything. So it's just the power of sport,
So good. What do you think were the biggest differences from a Queensland sporting market to an AFL-dominated big market?
You're on enemy territory, that's for sure. It's the Brisbane Broncos are the number one story. And so you're up against the Broncos. So we would often have to work our media appearances around the Broncos schedule early on. And anything the Broncos did was the back page. They were the Collingwood of Brisbane, all that kind of stuff. So whenever we got on the back page, we were thrilled, especially early on. And also too, you're just in a market from a fan interest point of view, a government point of view, where when the team isn't winning, it's just not the natural thing to do. And Brisbane are a city of supporters outside of the Broncos, typically, but they can be a little bit fair weather. So the Queensland Raw, they might get 50,000 when they're winning and then 7,000 when they're losing. The Brisbane Bullets, same thing, and all the club teams are around there. So we saw that with the Lions, right? When we weren't winning, we might have 14,000 people turn up, and then we were winning, the place was sold out. Having to learn understand, it's like anything, it's a hard new balance, market. It is. Any new market, you have to understand what that's about. And when you're in footy in Queensland or any challenger market and challenger code, you have to really start at the grassroots community, honour the work they're doing, prep them up a bit, and really pump up their tyres, because they're keeping the code going there. And female Queensland participation, for example, in Queensland is off the charts for AFL. And there's all these local heroes that you want to really take care of, because there's the ones who's going to keep the game going in the downtime. Because right now, I assume everyone's playing AFL in Brisbane and everything's going great with the Lions doing well. But sport is cyclical. And that downturn will come again. So, how can you invest in these people who are going to make sure they're there even during the downtime? But really challenging, really interesting. When we won, it was great. We were the talk of the town. We knocked the Broncos off the back page. It was amazing. And I remember my first presser I did up there, we had one person turn up. And my last presser I did up there, we had to have it out in the field because we couldn't fit people in the room. So that was the big change while I was during my time.
They had a good year last year, Brisbane.
They did all right.
Broncos, men's, women's, and the Lions, men's.
Yeah.
Flying. The other one I just want to ask on Queensland is, was there much media collaboration between the Suns and the Lions? I know there's, again, rivalry, but when you're trying to battle against NRL.
We would team up for obviously Q Clash. That's definitely working alongside of those guys. And from an AFL perspective and Courier Mail and season launches. But after that, it's footy rivalry, right? You want to beat them and they want to beat you. So that goes hand in hand. But definitely you work together on the big events. And Q Clash was always a big event. And, you're working up there with the Courier Mail and things like that. So they were great. They were great guys to work with.
Now you come back to Melbourne, and part of a startup that's unfortunately failed now, the Melbourne Rebels, as GM of Stakeholder Relations. How does this role come about, and how different is it going into a startup environment?
You're going to be shocked when I say I applied online?
Not really, no.
That's what happened. It was an opportunity to get back into sport. Post-COVID, just the whole thing had changed, and in terms of getting into sport, and I'd seen a lot of my friends either make redundancy or step down, all that kind of stuff, and their hours, things like that. And it was just a big time of uncertainty, honestly, in the industry. Before that role, I was chatting to someone in a TV broadcast role, and then that stopped about an opportunity, and they just said, well, we don't know if sport's going to exist in 2 weeks' time, so I can't offer you a job. That was the level of questionable status about how everything was thanks to COVID. So coming off the back of that, it was an opportunity to get back into sport, and there were less opportunities. But this looked again to me, looked really interesting because it was similar to Queensland. The team was not known for necessarily doing well, challenger brand, challenger code, and great facilities, Amy Park, a lot of opportunities there. So it was a similar thing. Come in, can you digital background? Can you make our own content? Can we bring up our audience and things like that? And the opportunity presented itself. I didn't know the code that well, so I also had to learn about the code as well. The team was struggling on field, so that makes things a little bit harder. But again, we had incredibly passionate, skilled, dedicated people putting that in, and it came back to that similar concept of when you're not winning, how does the crowd and environment really react with you? And we had incredibly passionate fans who turned up every week. They just weren't a lot of them. But then you go out on the weekend and they'd all be playing on a Saturday. So from a club point of view, like how do we convert that into bums on seats and all that kind of thing? And I left after a couple of years and the club sadly no longer exists. But again, some really cool people to work with. You know, we had people coming in and out of the Wallabies all the time, people coming out of the Wallaroos, and they were really great to work with. And the opportunities there to work with Stan and all this kind of thing, like from a media and stakeholder point of view, really great learning point.
Yeah. What was that experience like being an exec team member? I know you're an exec as well at the Lions, but how different was that?
Well, again, it's just like all the issues we spoke about. Like when you're on the exec, like the issue of people like bums on seats or sponsors or whatever, that's everybody's issue when you're on the exec. Like you all have to work to the strategy, you're reporting up to a board. And also from a Rebels point of view, they worked alongside very closely with Rugby Victoria from a state governing body. So we also had to work with those guys for the greater good of the game. So you needed to kind of like take a step back and really have that 30-foot view of not just, you can't just look at your department when you're on the executive, you really have to be able to have an overview of how everybody's trying to work together.
Makes sense. Now, your most recent role, basketball.com.au, general manager. Did you apply for this one as well?
Yes.
You're getting good at applying.
Yeah, I know, clearly. It was just an amazing opportunity on paper. Like the ad was actually very like generic. It didn't go into too great a detail, but it was all about, can you lead this like basketball media business? And I was like, hell yeah, I can. Like this
ties into your passions of basketball.
Yeah, definitely about media landscape, digital first, journalism, basketball. And like, again, the ad was kind of generic, but I got the feeling it was working for the NBL group and for Larry Kesselman. So the opportunity just looked too good to turn down. And that's what it was. And so like, I knew what I wanted it to be. So in the interview process, I like made up this like Canva doc about 15 slides of what I thought it could be. And it turned out that was exactly what they wanted it to be. So that worked out quite well. And yeah, got into an opportunity where just really passionate people about basketball, really passionate about growing the game in this country. Like it's, I think basketball, it's kind of like definitely on the up at the moment. The NBL is doing incredibly well. Will it ever reach the AFL, NRL levels? Who knows? So it's always going to be punching a bit. And the opportunity to be able to help grow the game from that perspective and tell stories that aren't normally told and all that kind of thing. Like, yeah, how could I say no?
Yeah, no, it's powerful. I know I spoke to you before we jumped on as well about Football 360 and my passion and interest in soccer and seeing very similarities. And I think to tell the story about everything in basketball, not only in Australia, but what's going on internationally, if you're a basketball fan, it's like, that's your place you go to.
100%. And I think like, even in my interview, I think I spoke about keep up as a similar concept previously. So like, had it been done before and football had done it before. And this was like a version of keep up, but for basketball. And then the Football 360 guys are doing it the same thing.
Yeah.
And they're doing really well. Shout out to them. And so the concept was like, we have so many Aussies playing around the world, so many Aussies playing locally and coming up through the game who simply don't get the attention they deserve. And if they were an AFL player, NRL, cricket, tennis, they would likely get the national profiles and that kind of thing. But that print, square inch was just not available for basketball. So we were able to come in and do that from a digital perspective. And then we just had fun with the format. So we like created this like digital magazine that like just shape shifted every month every week whenever we wanted to do it, because it was just a bit of fun. So we just created it ourselves and made it whatever we wanted it to be. We handed out our own awards, did all this kind of stuff. And being able to go in and cover the game from like under 16s up, and just give the spotlight and the shine for these kids who probably deserve it but don't get it, was an amazing opportunity. And I think like the best example that we have is Satya Fagan, who 17-year-older from Victoria. She was heavily courted by like 40 colleges in America. She got down to like a final 3 of choices, and that was the biggest colleges in the US. And just like by checking in with her mum and her agent, we were able to sit alongside her and tell the story. We broke the story alongside USC, the college that she ended up choosing. We're able to do the big feature, worked with the agency, worked with Nike, worked with everybody to be able to break this story together. I look back at that and I say like, that's an amazing, profile feature journey. We went alongside her. And she's probably going to make more money than like 70% of AFL and NRL players next year, and nobody in this country would have heard of her. Yeah. So that's just the scale now over there now in college basketball that has. And so we were just really, really proud of what we did with her, and we ended up doing a TVC with her, and so we put her in TVC
Amazing.
for Mitsubishi. So we were just like, that's just an example of like, this kid is going to be the next big thing in women's basketball. She might be the WNBA #1 pick in 2 years' time. But now you'll have a background of 3 to 4 years of knowing her story, thanks to the platform. So really proud of things like that.
Yeah, good storytelling for sure.
Yeah.
How big is the organisation in terms of staff? Like I know a lot of these other previous roles you've had a lot bigger organisations. I imagine this is quite small.
Yeah, it was a startup, right? So everything startup in every facet. It's 4 full-timers, a couple of contractors and freelancers who contribute to us. Had Andrew Bogut previously, and then now running with Jason Gadee and Beck Cole. And apart from that, a few volunteers, and a few, like we chatted to some people in the SportsGrad community to come on board as well. But yeah, it's a pretty lean business. And nearly everybody we spoke to from a brand perspective or any externally, like when you said we only had 4 people, they were like, oh wow, like we thought there was so many more. I'm like, yep, we're all working hard.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
This was a bit different too. Your general manager, you're not so much on marketing comms. It's a bit more generalistic about everything business-wise.
Running the business. Yeah.
How hard was that for you, or how much was it something you enjoyed as well? Because you're looking more at other parts of business and probably tapping into all these skills you've learned over the journey as well.
Yeah, I really enjoy it, and the sense was you got to understand the whole business. So it was like we'd go from a content meeting at 10 a.m. into like a meeting with, let's say, the NBL or the NBA at 10:30, and then at 11:30 you're pitching to a brand saying, hey, come on board and sponsor this thing. So I really enjoyed the variety, and also like leading a team and keeping everybody connected, because we had a couple of people in Melbourne and everybody else was remote, just like sitting on their couch from home. And when you work in that remote environment as a leader, it's really important to stay connected and check in. It's I really enjoyed the variety of the role, and just learning, understanding the business more, and the business of business as well.
Yeah.
Learning the commercial realities of a startup and sponsorship and marketing of, especially in the sports landscape these days. Hopefully it's going to add to the old repertoire.
Definitely. Now, away from sport, something you're really passionate about is the work you do for We Are Mobilise. So you're Chief Marketing Officer and Executive Director. You worked with Ned Brockman and his agency, and part of this is you've helped raise $7 million over 2 events. I'll let you take the floor as to the background of this story and the passion behind it as well.
Yeah, cool. So at the Melbourne Rebels, I was also responsible for the community department, and our charity of choice was We Are Mobilise, and it was a homelessness charity. I didn't know anything about the space at the time, so I thought, well, I'm head of community, I better go and check it out. So we went along for a session with the team there, and we went out into the streets of Melbourne, and it's the middle of winter, it's pitch black, it's cold, and the whole thing is you go up and chat to people on the street, and you turn up with some food or some clothes, whatever it is, but the main part of the interaction is the conversation. And like naturally, it's kind of, you're nervous, you're a bit daunting, all that kind of thing. But I went into one session with that, chatted to some really interesting people, learned a lot from them. Even if it was only 5 minutes, you learn about their story. And I said to myself, like, I want to do more of that. So I called up the CEO. His name was Noah at the time. Oh, his name's still Noah. The CEO is still Noah. And I just said, how can I get more involved? And I don't necessarily want to be the one going on the streets all the time, but like from a business perspective, how can I help?
Yep.
And they had an option. They had a opening like on the board, and so I said, "We'd love to do that." And he just said, "Great, we'd love to have you on, but this guy's just running across the country for us from Perth to Sydney. So can you give me a couple of weeks?" So I said, "Sure, not a problem." And then
And did you know what that was? At the time?
I learned very quickly. What it was. So Ned Brockman, this guy, he'd run previously. He'd done 50 Ks in 50 days around Sydney a year or two earlier. Raising money for the Red Cross, and I think he raised about 75 grand. So like, again, incredible story, but I hadn't heard of that. So it really was like, how can you get some more exposure for this kind of effort? And he teamed up with an agency at Bursty, which are a really cool group out of Melbourne and Wagga. James is in Wagga, one of the co-founders. So they teamed up and they did all the PR side of things for Ned this time around, brought on some amazing sponsors. And I think like he took off in Perth and not too many people knew about it. He did a bit of PR, but as he just got across the country and his social team kicked in, his social work himself kicked in, but also the content and marketing from Bursty as well along the way, like he just kind of blew up and got incredibly popular, and this story just took over. And when he got to Bondi, I think he'd become a bit of a national treasure by that stage, like even just running along. And he ended up raising $2.3 million from that run for us. And all of a sudden it was just like, from my perspective, like I thought I was joining this like charity of like, 6 volunteers and just like helping out. And now we had like $2 million in the bank like 2 weeks later. And I was like, all right, things are getting real.
Were you in Sydney when this happened?
No, so I wasn't enough in the team yet.
Yeah,
so the team were, Noah and the team were, and I look back at that going, I really wish I was, because what an incredible time. But then when I left the Rebels, like I chatted to Noah and I was like, hey, really more interested in this space. Like, can I come along and help out? So end up joining the team there. And then, learn about the homelessness space and a whole new sector, fundraising, brand communications, marketing partnerships, going in a whole new field, having to learn, a whole part of an industry that I wasn't aware of. So found that really good challenge and really interesting. And also just about the homelessness itself and how many people and, the underlying causes for that kind of thing. But as we moved into the second year there, Ned wanted to do another event, and it was Ned's Uncomfortable Challenge. So he was going to try and break the world record to run 1,000 miles, running around a track in Sydney. And then also on the back half of that, when that finishes, like Australia can go and do their own challenge. So do something uncomfortable for 10 days. To keep it very quick, like we went to the track for those 10 days, ended up being 12 days, and Ned attempted to break the world record. And just seeing this man put himself through just the most intense pain, and still have a smile on his face and come out and do it. It was just amazing to be there. And this was really like a sports marketing event in itself. Like we had a live TikTok stream, we had brands involved, we had talent. The Shep Boys were hosting, the live shows twice a day. We got into the studio to help run the live shows and do all the live tallies and all that kind of thing. It was really an incredible event to be a part of. He didn't end up breaking the record, but who cares? He ended up, during that period of that month, we ended up raising like $4.3 or $4.5 million for homelessness, which is going to just help so many people. Yeah. And the team at Bursty and the Mobilise team just did an incredible job of bringing it all to life. So I look back at that Ned's Uncomfortable Challenge when he ran around Sydney and just the hours as a team we put in and what we were able to do and all the cool stuff we did for raising awareness around homelessness. And that's like, in my mind, that's alongside like an Olympics or whatever from a career point of view. So I'll never forget that. It's an incredible opportunity. And they've since gone on to, Ned did another Uncomfortable Challenge last year, but he didn't participate. Thank God, he took a break. I think they raised another $1 million. They're now the charity of choice for Triple J for the Hottest 100, raised another $1 million out of there. So they're doing really well. I think just the power of content and storytelling and amazing ambassadors like Ned have done incredible for the homeless space in this country. So good on the team, everybody there.
Love it. I did watch the documentary. I think it's on Netflix.
There you go. Yeah. Run. Yeah.
I probably watched it six months ago, and it was very impressive. Yeah. Just what he put his body through to do that. It's out of this world. It shows you can probably push yourself a lot harder than you think you can.
100%. Yeah. And Noah was very similar. And so when it came to like the Uncomfortable Challenge part for the everyday person to do it, I said to Noah, I think I'll do 10 kilometers a day. And he's like, you're pretty fit, aren't you? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I want you to do half marathon a day for 10 days in a row. I was like, I can't do that. Anyway, I did 4 in a row, which I was really happy with. Until the physio told me I was going to like snap in half if I went for the 5th. But again, that was just challenging and pushing yourself, right? Yeah. I'd never done half marathon. I'd never run 10Ks before. But it was just the mindset of like, hey, you can do a lot more than you think you can. And just being around those people who push you and getting into it, like, I was really thankful for that opportunity as well, because you're right, we can push ourselves a lot further than we can. Yeah. And hopefully, like if you watch Run or read Ned's book and things like that, that's what you take away from it.
What an awesome experience. Diverting away to more problems that you faced, problems that listeners face. Firstly, on challenges in industry, what do you think makes it difficult to get a job in sport?
Just the competition. Like, honestly, there's the competition, first of all, that if it does go to market, you're probably up against 300-400 people. There's the competition in the hidden market. Like a lot of the jobs don't get advertised, so you're up against people who have networks. And then breaking into it in the first place. Like, how do you break into it? Do you try and do the network approach? Do you try and create all your content yourself these days? And I think like, you guys at SportsGrad and do a great opportunity of breaking all that down. But yeah, it's just the competition. Yeah. Because it's pretty heated.
Definitely. Career direction wise, how did you decide this was the career path you wanted to take?
Yeah, I as I said before, I really struggled with it at first. And it just took going along to a session where like reading someone else's passion experience made me think, hold on, I have that too. So yeah, it was kind of like an eye-opening moment that I can't believe I had to go to some marketing conference to realize it. But yeah, it's I don't think it's always like, unless you really are passionate about something to begin with, and when you're trying to break into sport, it can be hard to find out what you want to do. But yeah, the more like specialized roles than ever are being hired in sport. So, nutritionists and designers and accountants and all those kind of things. So there's many ways into sport now, than not as just the generalist jack of all trade.
Yeah. Making it in sport, when you've landed your jobs through the course of your career, what do you think has made you stand out the most?
Well, probably that passion and expertise in that area. I think like, because the competition is so hard, if you can come in and talk about the latest trend, you've done your research into the organization, but also just your passion comes across in an interview, like that's really hard to turn down as a hirer.
Yeah, definitely. We also like to speak a lot about influencers, mentors in your career, who have been some of the biggest ones in your end.
More so, like, I think people who early on in my career in particular, like at Essendon, there was John O'Simpson, who I spoke about before, was a great person to be able to lean on and get some guidance through from there. And then moved through Richmond. I had a first boss who really showed me the way of the AFL industry and how to navigate all those challenges, because he was dealing with all the media narratives at a big club that, you're not really exposed to on the daily. And you can see how he could just handle things or create concepts or whatever it was, like, just the mastery of the industry and the stuff that he was really doing, like, was very impressive. So being able to learn from him was great. Then I've had, my sister's always someone I've been leaned on for advice, and then a good friend of mine as well, who I helped start that events business with, James. So those are kind of people I more so look to. There's not any flashy names or anything like that.
Doesn't have to be.
No, it's just more about people who like kind of like stepped in in my life at the time with the right advice.
Yep.
More so than about, speak to that person or do that. It was more about have you rethink your approach, or look at a different way, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Speaking of advice and mentoring, you're part of the SportsGrad method program as a mentor. So you've been doing this for a little bit of time now, working with Thomas Birkbeck. Can you just explain, I suppose, your first exposure to SportsGrad, relationship with Ruben, and then the willingness to be able to support Thomas, but in any case, anyone that's doing the program? Yeah,
well, I think with everybody at SportsGrad, you just can't miss Ruben online anywhere. So I think I probably came across him that way. I think we had a coffee 4 or 5 years ago when he was asking for just like recommendation or advice or something. And I said I'd be happy to catch up. And just saw like what he was doing is just so incredible for people who want to break into the industry. Being a little bit older, when I was doing this myself, like you had to learn by failure. Like you had to go and try and fail. And as I said, like I was going for these jobs that I knew I could do, but I kept missing out. And I kind of just had the people in my life to talk to. Whereas now, like you've got these handbooks and other people and cohorts and all this kind of stuff, and people you can look to and just be like, what have you found with this? And you have this network that simply wasn't there when I was trying to crack into it. So that's really cool. And I think that's a great opportunity for everybody doing that now. And yeah, I think it's really back on SportsGrad members now to kind of, how do you stand out from that crop now on top of everybody doing the same thing? So that's how I came across SportsGrad and Ruben a few years ago. Just a big believer in what he was trying to do. And then Thomas, I think, just reached out, I think, via an intro from Ruben. And we just started having a chat, and he's in that media space, and that's something I've been doing. And just someone, if you know Thomas, he's just very keen. He wants to get cracking in the industry. He knows exactly what he wants to do. He knows how he wants to get there. And he just turns up and he shows up. And I think he was down in Melbourne a couple of months ago for a conference and a few other things. He did a lot of volunteering in his community, like working regionally in Queensland like he does. Like it's hard work to get kind of the attention that you want to, but like he does it by showing up and asking for advice and turning up to these events. So he's super talented. I know he'll be able to crack into something he wants to do very quickly. And he's also got the skill set. So like working him has been pretty easy because he knows what he wants to do. He's following all the right approach. And yeah, can't see it won't be too long before he cracks into something he really wants to get done.
Love it. And thank you for your support with him as well. We mentioned as well when you came in that you got Kevin, I think, on board doing some work with basketball.com.au. Is that right?
We didn't in the end. But
I didn't in the end.
Had a chat with Kevin.
But you mentioned that with him popping up consistently on TikTok and the work he's doing, that gave the opportunity. And for context, Kevin's working behind the scenes a little bit with SportsGrad, and also he's a member. But do you want to speak about that as well?
Yeah, sure. So like he kept popping up on my LinkedIn, and he kept popping up with his like PDFs about what's happening in TikTok this week in sport. And at basketball.com.au, that was an opportunity for us where we saw as TikTok being something we just didn't have the time for, being a small business and a bit understaffed. So we looked for people who could help us out with that. And the fact that he just turned up week after week, the repetition, the consistency like that showed to me like he really cares. He knows what he's talking about. And that's what led to us having a conversation. So like I knew I needed to find someone who had TikTok experience, and he kind of just kept appearing. So I was like, well, I don't have to do this. This is great. He's come to me. And I think like in that world, if you can keep appearing in people's feeds and showing up with consistency and expertise, like that's how you're going to get found.
Yeah, definitely. Consistency is the key. Last one's coming up from my end. So if you had to go back in time and someone said, I'll give you $1 million if you can land a job in marketing and comms, and you've got 30 days, what's your approach?
Take every coffee you possibly can. I would do as much content as I can. I would probably like do my own LinkedIn ads about myself. Maybe some Twitter ads, because all that stuff's relatively cheap these days. And I'm getting $1 million, like I may as well invest, right?
Yeah, true.
Makes sense.
That's probably the first person that's actually said that.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Just get in front of as many people as you can, and it doesn't need to be in person. It can also be in the feed. And yeah, it's you have to show up with your expertise. Like I've actually received ads of people promoting themselves on LinkedIn, and I was like, wow, that's clever. Like if I needed you, I might actually want to do it. But yeah, that's how you get in front, because like again, you're competing with so many other people. How do you stand out? And if I saw a LinkedIn promoted feed in an ad for myself, or on Twitter ad, or Instagram, whatever it is, I'll be like, all right, this person is really trying, really caring, and I've only got 30 days, so let's spam the feed. Let's get in there.
Love it. Biggest pinch me moment working in sport?
Definitely playing basketball on Oracle Arena in the middle of the NBA Finals.
How does that all come about? I know you would have been when you were at the NBA, I imagine.
Yeah, when I was at the NBA, yep. So in between games, they have media days where they invite the media to come along and have a game. And my boss was like, do you want to join in the media game? And I dropped everything and said yes. So we got that opportunity.
I thought you were just going to say like it was just shoot around, but you're actually playing a game against other
media.
Media
So there was like maybe 30, 40 media reps, like a lot of people you may know, like Trey Kirby and Dave McMenamin and a few other people. And yeah, so we all just turned up. But I didn't know that was happening until like after I turned up in San Francisco. So like I turned up in like running shoes and like Richmond shorts and all this kind of stuff. So I looked ridiculous. And so the opportunity came up again in Cleveland. So I went to like the local Foot Locker or whatever and actually kitted myself out in basketball gear. So thankfully, no injuries or anything. But yeah, when I posted the photos, my old mates from Richmond were like, yeah, decor, getting the brand value out of all these, shorts appearances. I'm like, well, that was not the plan, but yeah, looking the part.
That's super cool. What do you think your life would look like if you hadn't pursued a career in sport?
Well, before sport, I was doing like IT sales and like phone sales. So probably something IT related. As I said before, I'm passionate about IT and sport, and I didn't really realize it. But yeah, probably something IT related.
Or the not-for-profit, maybe?
Or the not-for-profit, yeah. Very good point.
And the last one is the question from our last guest. So the last person we had was Luke Addard from Williamstown Footy Club in the commercial team. He asked, what do you think the VFL and VFLW will look like in 5-10 years' time? Yeah,
I was thinking about it on the train in here, actually. And I think 5 years ago, if you'd said there'd be a semi-national competition of the VFL, you'd probably like, really? Okay. So let's continue that theme. Let's go with a national reserves competition. So the VFL in its form may not exist, but it's a national reserves competition where you have West Coast playing Richmond in the reserves.
And the standalone clubs still exist.
Correct. Yeah, that would be the VFL probably, but this is like a national AFL reserves.
Yeah,
and that's been something that's been floated for a very long time, so I'm not sure what's holding it back. I'm sure there are many
I thought with your background in footy that you might
there are many things holding it back, but yeah,
insights.
let's say a national AFL reserves competition.
And the last one from me is, what is the one question you'd like to leave our next guest?
So I thought about this on the train on the way in. What about which is the next sport to have like a Formula One style Drive to Survive, like glow up from a documentary and content point of view?
What do you think it would be?
Oh, great question. What's left? Everybody's done it. Could it be? I don't know.
I'm trying to think of what I would say as well.
Yeah. I think golf have done it. Tennis have done it.
Tennis, yeah.
Formula One.
Don't know.
There you go.
Well,
the next guest can answer that. That's not my
question.
problem to answer. They can answer that.
Well, that's all from me, Anthony. I just want to say it's been a pleasure getting to know more about your journey, your stories, some very sound advice. I think the listeners can take a lot away from the conversation. And yeah, I'm sure we'll see more around SportsGrad circles with your mentorship, and maybe Rubes will get you on a panel as well soon enough. So yeah, thanks again for your time, and see you soon.
Thanks, Nate. Thanks for having me.